Hello, everyone. I am Emily Vogel from The Wrap, and I am so excited to be here on behalf of SeriesFest with the amazing women behind Hacks. We've got the co-creators, co-showrunners, co-executive producers, writers, Jen Statsky and Lucia Aniello. Welcome.
Hi, thanks for having us. This is going to be fun.
Yeah, I need to broaden that. It's like your credits are like a CVS receipt. Yeah, you guys are all y'all are talented. Well, I just got this in the mail today. The Rad magazine featuring 15 Emmy nominations. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I think I saw Paul post that. Hold on, I'm gonna try to get this right. If you receive a third writing win for Hacks, you would become the women with the most wins for writing a single narrative series. Pretty crazy. What would that mean to y'all?
Yeah, it's wild. I mean, it's hearing that, yeah, it feels wild. I don't know if you can totally like internalize it. I mean, we feel really honored and lucky to be in the position we're in. And, I think it's very fitting because the show is about women and very intentionally when we started making the show, we said we want to honor women whose stories maybe didn't get to be told, the women who came before us in the entertainment industry who had a markedly harder path and faced things that we at our age, have been lucky enough to maybe not have to or still have to, but have an easier path the way, Deborah kind of forged that path for Ava. So I think for us, as women, like looking at in history that way, like it's just incredibly meaningful. And we think about the women who came before us who helped us get here.
Exactly. It's for us, we really stand on the shoulders of giants of women who didn't get that opportunity because there are so many men who have far more Emmys than that, which is great. Men can and should. But yeah, for us, it's just like really we hope that the women who have paved the way feel seen by the show because that really is the most meaningful thing for us, honestly.
Well, I'm also fangirling because you all had a cameo this season in the studio. So when you win all your awards this year, are you gonna be thanking Sal Saperstein? How's that gonna work? I mean, did that and Seth's also in this season of Hacks as well.
Yeah.
Was that part of the deal? You're like, we'll come on if you come on ours.
It wasn't quid
It
pro
wasn't
quo.
really quid pro quo. No, it just kind of like weirdly worked out the way it did. But yeah, it wasn't like a handshake deal that ours or you will do yours if you do ours. I don't know exactly how it even.
We've known Seth forever.
Yeah.
This is, I think, Hacks that Paul's been in like this, I think, is the fourth thing that they both were in because they did a movie together. And then also Seth was on Broad City.
Mel Stacy, right?
Yes,
Mel
Stacy. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, great memory.
Season 2. So, we go back with Seth and so it was fun to be able to have those crossover moments.
Yes.
Now, I mean, on the show, he's playing strip poker because we have officially entered the late night era this season. Was it always part of the plan that Deborah would get her own late night show from the beginning?
Yeah.
It was baked into the series pitch when we took this show out. Like it was Deborah, this is her white whale. This is something that is a central issue for her way back when she was going to have the chance to be the first female late night host, and then it didn't happen in the 70s. And so her whole career has been in ways working back to get to this place. So we knew always that eventually she would fight to get it and get it. Yeah.
And then do you all have experience writing for late night? How did you bring any of that into this?
I got my start on late night. Yeah, my first of like professional writing job full time was on Late Night with Jimmy Fallon back in 2011. So yeah, late night is near and dear to me in that way, because I that was my first comedy job. That was the job that made me a writer and got me into the Writers Guild and stuff. And so yeah, and then all of us come, we came up in New York doing comedy at UCB and late night and SNL were kind of these institutions that we all looked up to. Like so many New York comedians in UCB, your first break and your first job can be late night, whether it's writing for it or doing stand-up on the show. So it's always loomed very large in our minds as comedians and people working in comedy.
Paul and I interviewed to make videos on Late Night with Seth Meyers, and we didn't get the job. So it really late night has touched every part of our careers, really.
Yeah. Well, I always love following the relationship between Ava and Deborah. There's so many layers that keep going and going. This season, we open up with blackmail. How do you keep forging these new layers? Like, was blackmail just the obvious next step? How does that work?
Blackmail is always the obvious next step in our minds. But you know, I think for us, that was like a really solid way for us to show that Ava has learned from the best, which is Deborah, and she's learned every lesson, some good, some bad. And so when she's decided to blackmail Deborah with this whole secret about her sleeping with Bob Lipka, it was kind of one of those moments. I think I think if you're the audience, we wanted you to feel completely surprised by it, but yet, of course, and feel like it's also very obvious at the same time. And some people I think were really happy for Ava and were really proud of her. And some people I think were less so, because it really means that she's kind of turned to the dark side. And what does that do to a person, which is really the heart of what we wanted to explore with Ava this season, is what is evil Ava? What is she capable of, and what is she incapable of? And there's things she's incapable of. Is that actually a good thing? And so it was for us, you know, like there was a lot of tension going into the season, and we played with that a lot, but we felt that that was really necessary to get us to the place where Deborah would be willing to leave the show for Ava in the penultimate episode of Slippery Slope. And so, you know, it was, I think, something that we were definitely asking our audience to go on a ride with us, but we're grateful for those who did.
Yeah. Well, this season is so fun again because we're on the studio lot. We're in the late night era of it all, which means, you know, whole new character groups, new situations. But first I want to talk about the writers' room, because that was so fun to watch. Are the stories from the writers' room like real stories? I mean, Paul's not here, so if he's throwing Branzino, like, you can tell us. You
You'd
can
actually
tell
be
us.
the least likely to throw Branzino, don't you think?
Yeah, I think for sure Lucia or I are throwing fish at a wall before Paul is, which is good because male rage is really scary. We don't want that. But yeah, no. I mean, the stress and pressure of it is real. Like
Mrs.
that.
Table is real.
Mrs. Table is real. That, yes, Mrs. Table is back on Parks and Recreation, which is a show I wrote on. We would order lunch for Mrs. Table to get some like sweet potato fries or stuff for the table. And that was, Mike sure wasn't supplementing it though. That's the difference. Ava was sticking her neck out. I believe we were stealing from the Universal Corporation with that one.
Thank you, Universal. But also, let's see, the writers having a text chain we aren't on to share meetings. That's real.
That's real. That's real. Our writers for sure have a text chain we're not on.
So, you know, we do pull from life. And, you know, something that's, I don't know, anecdotally kind of interesting is that there was, you know, 8 parts for the writers, and 34,000 people submitted to play those parts. Isn't that the craziest thing you've ever heard, actually?
Wow, that's wild.
Yeah, really wild.
So, okay, so you're saying there wasn't a crazy writers retreat to Vegas with a drug suitcase?
Not that, no.
We've actually never done a writer's retreat.
No, on Hacks, no. Yeah, we've never done.
Shouldn't
we
do that.
we're used to, because we started writing the show in like deep COVID pre-vaccine. So much of the first season and into the second was all virtual. Like it wasn't even an option to see each other. So there's some stuff like that we're like, oh yeah, we could do that now. We forget because we're so used to COVID protocol.
I'm just so curious to like what goes down in your writer's room when you're like, okay, Mayor Joe needs to have an incident and then sex on a Zamboni. Like, how do you get from A to B? Like, well, sometimes there's just things in the show where I'm watching or I'm like, I wish I was just a fly on the wall in the writer's room. How do you come up with these things?
You know, that specifically, I don't know, but I think we always knew we wanted Mayor Joe. I think we knew it was Mayor Joe to have a public issue and to come on the show, and for Deborah to not only learn from that experience, but also learn almost from her own empathy. Her deciding to have Mayor Joe on to let Mayor Joe use her own voice helped her realize the show can be whatever she wants it to be. And sometimes when she has her friends on or people she knows, it's just going to be juicier, more interesting, because she's just not talking to some person who just became famous 10 minutes ago and is 19 years old and so has no stories to tell. And so for us, we were like, okay, we want to take something that's always funny, which is Lauren Weedman as Mayor Joe, but use that as a vehicle for Deborah to learn about herself and learn about the show and how she wants to make the show, which then did lead to the show becoming #1. So it was kind of like you have these like little dropped breadcrumbs you leave for yourself and you have to figure out how to get there. And so Yeah, that was really fun. The actual sex on the Zamboni, I feel like we probably were like, what are 20 things that you could have had?
How much is improviser? Like, I mean, you are incredible writers. I'm sure it's just like, do people veer off script? Are you just like Gene Smart, do your thing, let your freak flag fly? Or is it just
More
pretty?
scripted than people probably think. Like it also depends who's in the scene, you know, but we stick because we try to plot it very carefully and plot it almost like a drama. Like the story beats we have to get to so specifically that, you know, we of course have improv in the scenes and stuff, and like, you know, Paul and Meg Stalter, when they're in scenes, like there's a ton of improv because they're comedians and they come from that background. But yeah, it's probably more scripted than you'd think.
Yeah, Hannah will improvise sometimes. Jean every once in a while, but when she does, we are obsessed with it. We like
Yeah.
love it. But because she comes from theater, she's so invested in the text. She really studies the text, like every little part of it she's considering, and she studies it like the craziest way. So sometimes we actually underwrite some things that we want her to improvise in. Like for example, when she and Katie Couric are in the hallway in the beginning of A Slippery Slope, I think we wanted her to kind of improvise because when Jean like improvises, she's so natural and real. And sometimes when she's doing QVC, we also like it when she improvises there because there's something very casual about the way that she improvises. She's never hard, like going for the joke the way some people do when they improvise. She's not, she's just like doing it truly in character. And so we love when she does it and want her to do it honestly more. Jean, if you're watching, improvise even more, baby. Love it.
So usually for shows, I feel like there's typically one showrunner, but here you have three. How do you balance like responsibilities, or if you really want something to be done, but other people want to do it instead? How do you decide who does what?
Honestly, more often than not, and correct me if I'm wrong, we really do kind of talk about every single thing together, the three of us. Like, I think our life would be a lot easier if we did delegate among the three of us more. We probably should do that.
Yeah.
Should we do that?
Yeah, I guess we just thought of it, season 5, we could delegate.
But we aren't good at it, really.
Yeah, we're all so invested in the show and so love it and think of it as our baby. So it's I think hard. I think it also makes it better, like to talk about every single part of it, every creative decision. Like if it was just like, oh, okay, Lucia's handling that, or Jen's handling that, or Paul's handling that, like that, you know, the way that the story of the show with Deborah and Ava coming together and making things better, like it does make it for a better product when the three of us are collaborating. So it's yeah, there's not a lot of delegation, which would be
Too bad.
a time for sure.
I mean, every once in a while, there's certain things like the captions. We have to check the captions to make sure that they're correct. And Jen's like, I'll do it. And we're like, thank you so much for doing that or whatever. Certain things where it's like, you know, like a lot of the pre-location stuff I'll go and do. And so like, it's not like
there aren't some things, but
when it comes to actually creating the show.
The creative of the show. Yeah.
Or somebody will respond to those emails, you know, it's like, okay, you just do it.
Yeah.
We still talk about what they're going to be together, but then someone goes and executes it, you know, but
yeah.
Well, with this season, again, there's an opportunity for so many more characters, different interactions. Again, being on the studio comes with new rules too. Dealing with the suits. You have Stacy from HR, Winnie Lindell. Can you talk about bringing these new characters into the mix and the vibes and how you work on that dialogue and their interactions with Deborah and Ava?
Yeah. I mean, it was such a fun opportunity for us, honestly. Like the idea of putting Deborah and Ava in a more corporate environment, especially Deborah, who's been kind of this lone wolf stand-up for so many years in her career. We knew there were really fun opportunities there with Helen Hunt, and, you know, as Winnie Lindell, she's Deborah's boss, and Deborah hasn't had like a real boss, or Tony Goldwyn playing Bob Lipka. Like these are people Deborah has to answer to now. So we knew there was both great story stakes in having those characters and those foils for Deborah, and also comedically, you know, having Stacy from HR having to mediate between Deborah and Ava as they're at odds, we knew would be really funny. So I think you're always, especially as the series evolves, looking to put your characters in new situations and make them feel fish out of water so that it feels fresh and new and you present them with new challenges. So we just kind of were like very excited to go into this season and have those things at our disposal to play with.
I think it's fun too, the cameos. I love, again, they're making a show. You have Jake Shane coming in, being, his social media girly self. And again, I think, the show touches on it. He's a great example of showing sort of what late night is now and these social media bits. And obviously now cancellation of Colbert. Like, how are you kind of showing, what are the ways that were important for you to, how am I wording this? How did you show late night where it is now? And like, what was important for you to highlight?
Yeah, I mean, our show is kind of always in different ways been about art and commerce, like just even the idea that Deborah had to go to Vegas and do that kind of, have that kind of career path was because she was kind of like a little bit ushered out of the industry. And so she was an outsider. And so we've kind of, and she had to therefore like do QVC and like the residency. And that's how she like made her money, even though because she wasn't really able to like flourish as a pure artist, she kind of had to figure out a way to make money doing it because of the lack of opportunity she had. So that's just an example of like how the show's always been about art and commerce in a way. And so now in this season, when she's kind of been brought back into the fold of traditional Hollywood, the idea she's always had of like, okay, I want to be a late night host. That's been my dream forever. She comes back, she finally gets it, but the dream has changed. Like what late night is so different because of, the internet and tech and just even making any show in the year of our Lord 2025 is just like a very different thing than it was 5, 10, 20 years ago. And so for us, we also, one of the things that we all talk about a lot is just the media landscape and the fact that institutions, in general are kind of eroding. And late night television is one of those institutions. For so long, you could go and see the topic of the day being skewered by a late night host. And now you've already known about that story 10 hours before. You've already seen all the jokes about it. And so if that is the case, we can understand why people are less likely to feel like it's imperative to watch late night because they're getting their news and media from so many other places. So I think that brought to us the idea of like, well, okay, if we do feel that this is an important institution, which we do, by the way, then how does that evolve? And for Deborah, I think point is that every host needs to evolve it into their own specific voice. And so for Deborah, it was make it specific to me, fun, dishy, sexy, and not necessarily as topical because she is such a great stand-up. And so I think in the case of Colbert, for example, he kind of has been leaning into the political thing, and that made in Deborah's case, that made her show number one, and in Colbert's case, it made his show number one. And I think that is because he has leaned into his true voice, and the fact that that voice is being silenced essentially because of political administrations or just corporate capitalism and powers that be is really actually does go back to really essentially what the show is about, which is how do you make art in late stage capitalism. Sounds funny, right?
Well, this sounds like the perfect time to talk about Dance Mom. Obsessed. Julianne Nicholson, she's an actress who I know, traditionally, I think most people do for more of serious roles, serious projects. Can you talk about working with her on this? Can you talk about creating this character? She is so fun to watch. Everything she says is the script. Just tell me everything.
Yeah. I mean, we are such fans of Julianne. She is so incredibly gifted and, like you said, known for her amazing dramatic work. And then when we conceived of this character, we knew, she's so good and grounded and real. We were like, she would be so funny doing this because she will take it on and make it feel so real and lived in. And, we just love one of the joys of making the show is getting to write for actors that we admire and getting to maybe say, hey, do you want to try to show a different gear or do something you haven't done in a while? And so we knew it would be so exciting for fans of hers and fans of the show and just people watching the character to see Julianne do something she hadn't really done before, which is hard comedy. And so, yeah, we were from minute one so like over the moon that she said yes. And then she dove into it with such intensity and like prep. Like she was in choreography rehearsals for months before we started shooting, learning those dances, working with our choreographer, Corey Baker, who's excellent. And it was just such a absolute pleasure from minute one.
And did I hear that her and the choreographer ended up like living together or like were roomies? Or were
Kind
you
of.
offended that you weren't invited? Like how did that?
You know what it was is that she was shooting in January, and Corey is London based because Julianne lives in England. And so when they were both here in January is when the fires happened. And so we shut down production just for safety of our crew and all of that. And so they went to Palm Springs to just kind of get out of town, but also to continue to work on choreography. And then they just kind of lived together in Palm Springs for a little while. They would like I think they would work on choreo for a couple hours in the morning, then they'd lay out and then they'd get cocktails or something. I don't even know, but I think that they just had a good time. Yeah. Becoming friends and
Right.
roomies and coworkers. And it was just, I think that's like, I mean, that is kind of like a weird microcosm of what this show does. Like so many people on our crew have like just become real friends and we're in each other's lives in a way that might be unhealthy, but we're loving it.
Okay, so Dance Moms, unhinged characters. Speaking of unhinged, Jimmy Kimmel on this, his appearance was so good. Again, with him, were you like freak flag fly, you do
Yes.
you, or did you write his bit, like his dialogue for him?
We wrote it, but at the same time, Jimmy came on the day so prepared, and he and his writers had written a couple lines that they wanted to throw in. And so it was like he knew exactly what the target was and had ideas of what he wanted to do. So he was on board for like the concept of the scene, and we were so thrilled that he was.
And some of the ones that ended up in there were ones that he and his writers wrote.
Yeah, like they wrote the Conan line that people always bring up to us. They're like,
You're like, he's not dead.
We're like,
Yeah.
not dead. He's as good as dead to a fellow late night host since he
Yeah.
doesn't have a
Yeah.
show, but
Yeah.
not dead.
So in the show, you will also feature other comedians, especially amazing women who have paved the way, you know, Carol Burnett, Meryl Marco, Rosie O'Donnell. Can you talk about working with them?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's something that kind of going back to your original question of like, you know, what is it like to be one of the women in writing comedy in and especially with this show is like we really, I think it does. I think when you're portraying somebody like Deborah Vance and we're saying, oh, these are the women who like really had to go through some serious shit to be able to have a voice and to get stage time or whatever it is. We don't want to just portray it by being like, oh, she got to do like that was really hard and that must have sucked, but now it's easy for us. Like I think what we attempt to do, whether it's on the writing staff or whether it's the actors on camera, is really honor them by giving them funny stuff to do and giving them an opportunity to perhaps not do something they haven't done before, whatever it is. We just want to bring them into the fold and make them part of the show. Because for us, it's not just hopefully it doesn't feel like it's just lip service because we genuinely mean it. Like we love having women who haven't been able to have the opportunities, or sometimes they were, but like, you know, we're interested in just like, what is it like for Rosie O'Donnell? What is her, you know, what is her career? What has it, you know, she walked away from her show, her daytime talk show, but she walked away from that. And that's really interesting to us. And like what her experience was like making that show, which is something she speaks to in the scene with Gene, which is, you know, some of the high highs and low lows, but the best moments are priceless. And so just as an example, I think, you know, for us, we just really love including those people in the show because they are the show.
Right. I think, you know, it's a love letter to those who have come before. It's a love letter to comedy, to late night, but also a love letter to LA. I know now a lot of production is leaving LA. I know the set you filmed a lot in Altadena, Deborah's house, that the set of her house is burned down. Can you talk about bringing in LA into the storyline? Oh, and the Randy Newman, I love LA bit. Like can you talk about that and bringing LA and that culture into the show this season?
Yeah, I mean, we make this perspective from people who love television and came to this city, to Los Angeles and Hollywood with no real connection to the business and have been lucky enough to work hard and really see our dreams come true. And we feel that's a really important tradition about Hollywood, and we want to preserve that and keep that here. And there's so many incredibly talented crew members and artists and actors and writers in this city. And it's important to us to kind of honor that tradition. We understand at times like why things shoot elsewhere, but the fact that you need to be fighting to keep Hollywood what it is and what it has been. And so we just really wanted to do that with this show, and do it both behind the scenes but also creatively, show a show being made in Los Angeles and highlight the people making it, and kind of pay homage to what this city has done for us and so many people before us. And so it was really, lovely to get to, in that 4th episode of this season, kind of make it about Los Angeles and what is it to make a show here. And the opening montage, we show a lot of our actual crew members in the opening sequence. When we show Deborah's late night show being built from the ground up, those are our crew members, in terms of who's featured on screen. And so it's just, it's such a collaborative effort, this entire show. And that collaboration stretches to Los Angeles, the people of Los Angeles, the people of this city, and Altadena, especially where we shot so much, have been so welcoming and accommodating to us over the years as we've shot here. And we always want to be grateful and show our appreciation for that.
Well, I'm going to pivot, and I can't believe I've gone this long without mentioning Kayla and Jimmy. They are my favorite. Okay, it's like I know you mentioned a lot of it's improvised, but how do you balance their storylines with Deborah and Ava's? Because sometimes I'm like, they just need their own show. Like, or can I just get like a webcam in their office 24/7?
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Jimmy and Kayla, like what we try to do with them is kind of, in a way, they're like Bizarro Deborah Ava. They're also navigating their own kind of creative collaboration, and there is so much love there, even though there's very different POVs. And, like, I think that we try to also balance them having hard comedy, but also real emotional moments too. Like, as much as Kayla can sometimes be this like wacky, crazy person, like we really try to be like, oh, there's a real person behind there, and show you kind of how she got to this place where that's what she does with her hair and makeup. So for us, like, we love Jimmy and Kayla, and like root for them as much as we root for Deborah and Ava.
Yeah.
In both instances, it's like they are these weird soulmates that also are completely opposite. And yeah, they do have so much fun. They have so much fun. And I think that's part of what makes it fun to watch, is you can tell Paul and Meg just love each other so much and make each other laugh so much that's like, there's something indescribable about the chemistry between the two of them that is, yeah, I could watch it forever too. I would also watch that webcam.
And then this season as well, we get introduced to Andy, played by Robby Hoffman. Can you talk about developing that character? And the character, again, I never knew I needed, and it's so perfect.
Yeah. Robby Hoffman is a stand-up that we have been fans of for years, and we knew, we feel so lucky to make a comedy where we can platform comedians that we just love and make us laugh so much. And so we knew that, Paul and Meg, like you said, have such an amazing dynamic already going on. And it's like, oh, who can you add to that who can match their level, but also feel like a different flavor? And so when we created, Robby's character, we were like, oh, this is perfect for her. It's the exact thing that The Office needs. And yeah, we're just such fans of Robby's. And so getting to write for her and create this character was a pleasure and a joy. And we're so glad more and more people have been like, oh my gosh, I didn't know about this comedian, and now I can't wait to go see her on stage because she's so brilliant.
Yeah. I've been watching so many just funny interviews with her, and she's hilarious. So I do want to take some time to definitely talk about Deborah and Ava. And I think this season, especially, we see this new vulnerability with Deborah. I mean, the anxiety and the heart beating scene, like how did you show that through the screen, through the writing this season?
Yeah, I mean, she's shows some of her softest moments and some of her hardest moments this season. And I think that you kind of have to balance those two things. And so even though she and Ava are real War of the Roses over so much of the course of the season, you want to balance that out with kind of literally being in your head, like you said in the episode where you hear her heartbeat, and you are really feeling the anxiety of what it must be like to have the weight of this on you. And she gets very vulnerable in the 6th episode, Mrs. Table, where she, promises Ava she will never hurt her again. And you just don't know whether to believe her or not. And then in the 9th episode, Slippery Slope, that's when she really proves to Ava and to herself that she is more than just somebody who's obsessed with her career. And she really is finally putting people first, which is honestly like a big theme for us in general, is the idea of putting your relationships over your work. And because I think there's something about kind of, if you say that your priority is work, I think that sometimes that can be about control, because you're like, I can control work and this is something that I can choose to do. And Deborah's somebody who's a complete control freak, and letting her emotions and her relationships take priority is really vulnerable and scary to do, but that's something she finally decides to do in the 9th episode, which is, I think, I mean, think about where she started in the beginning of the series. Like, you would never imagine she would leave late night for Ava, but I think, you know, by slowly showing you how it's one step forward, 2 steps back for them, we hope that you know, get to a place by a slippery slope where you're rooting for it, even if you're not sure it's going to happen, but it does.
Yeah, I think it's one of those crazy aha moments, is like the whole goal is to be, you know, the late night, to host late night. And then by the end, it just feels like one small chapter in her life, which one blip of everything, to be able to realize that in the course of everything. So again, was that always the plan? Like, she's going to get late night and then she's not. And we kind of talked about it at the beginning, but she was always going to give it up for Ava.
Yeah, that was always the plan. You know, it was this evolution of the character, as you're saying. It was that, oh, well, what if this white whale, this thing that she thought if she ever got would fulfill her and solve all her problems, she, in the course of growing and developing this relationship with Ava, realizes that it's the relationship and the collaboration that is the thing that will set her free, and the thing that will fulfill her soul, more so than any one accomplishment or goal or career goal. And so that was always, you know, very much the intention of the show, because the show is about the relationship between these two women and how they change each other and how they make each other better. And this was, you know, like Lucia said, kind of the whole series leading up to this moment of Deborah doing this for Ava. That is the ultimate sign of growth and the ultimate realization for Deborah, that it's taken 4 seasons to get to her realizing that the person is more important than the goal.
I love throughout the season as well, there's certain callbacks to previous season. You know, when Deborah's had the poppers and she's in the hospital, and Ava shows up, or when they're drinking the champagne. How do you decide which of these moments to kind of call back to or bring back into the storyline?
Oftentimes we write them planning on having the callback in the future. So as we're writing the show, there's still things that we've planted in the series so far that still have not yet to come to fruition, that we're still planning on. So oftentimes we're like writing for the future as we're writing the show. And so we should hope that, you know, as the series continues and as it eventually finishes, that a lot of the series will feel completely full circle. And that's stuff that we've like laid in since season 1 that we still are planning on, you know, bringing back at some point. So it's this weird call back, call forward at the same time thing that we do as we write the show.
Yeah. How do you balance? I mean, I love watching Ava and Deborah's relationship, but then they also have their own personal lives. This season, Ava's in her throuple. She's a third. Like, how do you decide how much personal life, how much personal life you're going to show, like what the purpose of that was in tying it all in? How do you balance that relationship with Deborah, but still giving their own storylines?
Yeah, we always want to make these characters feel like 3-dimensional people that had their full lives outside of work and outside of their relationship with each other. I think it's really just, if it's a funny story, but also it feels like it pushes our characters forward, and then on a third level does relate to Deborah and Ava. You know, I think they're all the situations that Deborah and Ava have been in and grown with other people. There's also things that they then bring back to the central relationship of the show, you know, that when in season 4, for example, when Ava is in a throuple, so much of it is about Deborah. So much of it is about this fear of intimacy because of what Deborah did to her, and the couple points that out. And we also knew that just from a POV standpoint, they would have very different takes on what it means to be a throuple. If Deborah ever ran into them, which of course she did, she'd have some jokes to make about it. So it's a balancing act, but we always want to make sure that it services the larger story arc between these two characters.
Mhm. Well, obviously you two have worked together for a long time. Let's go. It's fun to see Deva, oh
Oh,
my God, like the couple
Oh.
names, celebrity couple name, Deborah and Ava grow throughout. But with you two and your friendship, like working together and with season 4, how have you seen each other grow throughout this experience and through this season?
Good question. She's gonna be like, she hasn't grown.
You're like, she hasn't.
Can't say
Sorry, this is
that.
awkward.
No, it's not awkward. I think Jen, as she's, as she's done more and more show running, I think it feels like she's become even more and more confident, in a way that is great and so, good and necessary, important. And, but I also think what's kind of important / what we try to do is like also, there's a difference between like confidence and not having ego, and she still doesn't have an ego, even though she knows what she's doing. She still doesn't have an ego about it, which is it's the humility that comes along with it is beautiful.
Thank you. It's very nice.
It's like ditto.
Yeah,
You can
same.
hit me with ditto.
No, ditto is so funny. No, I mean, I think, all of that is true for Lucia. And I think on top of that, like, getting to this point in Lucia's career as a writer, but also a director, like, I think a lot of people, if you look at, Lucia has directed some of the most important comedies of the last 10 years, or or even more than that. She's so incredibly accomplished. But I think a lot of what happens is sometimes when people get to that point, even being as young as she is, you could go on autopilot and you could stop challenging yourself, and you could stop trying to give your audience something new and fresh. And I think Lucia has constantly never taken her foot off the gas in terms of trying to give the audience something different and fresh, and pushing herself and saying, well, I've done that before. I've done that shot before. How can I shoot this differently? How can this be a different visual? How can this be new and interesting? I think she's only gotten better at that and kept doing that in a way that really inspires me to keep doing that. And so I think, yeah, that's a real growth thing of the more you work, the more you realize you have to keep challenging yourself and giving yourself challenges, or it'll show up in the work.
Mic drop. Right before, that's beautiful. I'm like, you guys are so cute. I'm like, wow.
Lucia's son. Oh, yeah, there we go.
Like, where do I find friends like this?
Lucia's son at one point saw us doing this on Zoom, and he's very cute, but he couldn't quite figure it out. He was 2 at the time, and he kept doing this, which I thought was so cute to like, couldn't figure out this. So he was like,
so funny. At dinner last night, he randomly was trying to do it.
Funny.
Isn't that so
Could
funny?
he do it?
Yeah, it took him a
he
long
got there.
time, but
He
he got there.
Growth.
Finally there.
Yeah.
But he wanted to do that to his family, his family dinner, and he just wanted to do it hard.
Sweet.
I love that. Well, I know we have to wrap here in a second, but I just want to know if you can tease anything about the new season, the next upcoming season 5 of Hacks.
Oh man.
Best season ever. Haven't shot it yet, but it's just an inkling of a feeling I have.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
I don't think there's anything we can tease. We're really excited. There's like some fun cameos that we've already talked about, and Deborah and Ava getting to do things that we're really, really excited for them to do. So it's kind of a non-specific answer, but we're excited.
It's enough. I'll take what I can get. Thank you both so much. Congratulations on your nominations, on an amazing season, and we can't wait for what's in store. And thank you, SeriesFest.
Thank you.
you.
Thanks, SeriesFest. Thank you, Emily.